make up your own company, and we had some good fun with that yesterday at the live teardown. And yeah, we'll just walk you through the product, and you can give us your feedback as we go.
Hello, Ben.
Spot on time, Ben.
Spot on time.
Ah, right. Let me put the t-shirt.
Oh, love it.
The kids went outside into the real world. I needed to put some.
Not the real world.
On.
Some protection. Okay. Well, so
Right, how are you doing?
pretty good. How are you doing?
Good. Yeah, good. I'm not liking the design anymore.
You're not liking the design anymore.
Why are you feeling it?
But you know, it is what it is.
Like, you mean like the colors and stuff, or
Yeah,
what?
it's just.
We said that
It's,
about the
But
mustard.
that's fine. I mean, you can't solve everything. But yeah, my recommendation after this would be get a refresh design regardless. I mean, I'm going to try and tweak a few things tomorrow, make it look a bit prettier, but not. And at the same time, take it away from the sort of the layout that we have, not the layout, but kind of the aesthetics that it has at the moment, just to sort of differentiate from some of my other stuff.
Yeah, exactly.
So hopefully it'll improve it as well.
Do you want us to give you different colors?
I think the design would be nice. What do you feel about it, though?
Do you want us to give you different colors? Could that help?
No. I mean, that's just me being obsessive.
No, we
No, I
agree
think
with
you're
you.
right.
We
Especially
agree with you.
this on this.
Yeah, we don't disagree. It's more just should
Can we give it another stab?
Yeah, should we give you colors, or should we just not worry about it for now?
I think for now, not worry about it.
Don't
I mean,
worry about
if I find myself twiddling my thumbs tomorrow, I might say, hey, give me a colour, I'm going to try something out. But right now, there are, I still haven't got the team ability to add people to a room yet. So there are more pressing things.
Okay, cool. So how was your day? What did you get done?
Yeah, so good day, busy day, but we pretty much went to plan. I mean, pretty much this morning was all about connecting the dots from a data layer standpoint, so making sure that we were tracking the opens within an email, so creating pixels. Had to make sure that the unsubscribe links were working as well, depending on the type of email there is.
Sure.
And thinking ahead to the fact that you may well be creating other emails in the future, so it needs to be a platform that allows you to create unsubscribe links for other types of emails. And then the view tracking, so when someone views an update on through the browser, tracking that as well. So that was all pretty much the entirety of the morning, as well as just rewriting the way that the emails are sent, so that it sort of batches them, as I think I mentioned whenever that previous call was it today or yesterday? I can't remember. So yeah, getting all the mechanics of that working, and then this afternoon was exposing some of that data in dashboards. So I ended up refactoring the room page. So before, you would go into a room as the owner, and from there you could sort of add content and move things around. But now that in the situation where we want to show data, we want to show some engagement within a room, it became a bit too cluttered to show that within one landing page or management area for that room. So I've broken rooms out into dashboard, which is where you get the reporting, content, which is where you edit the content or delete, and then the preview page as well, so you can just see what it looks like beforehand. And that dashboard incorporates the total number of opens, the total number of views and opens over time per day. Looking at the last 30 days, you've got a couple of nice line graphs that probably for you won't show anything yet, because it needs at least 2 data points for it to actually show a line. So that will kick in probably from tomorrow. Every 15 minutes that updates. So the dashboard is as close to real time as one would want it to be. So that's kind of cool. And then you've got recent activity on the right. I'm not sure whether you have this open at the same time.
Yeah, we do.
We have it open. Yep.
And which is quite nice. So it really straightforward, but just shows you the sorts of insight that you can now gain when you start connecting all these pieces together. So the recent activity lets you look at who has recently opened one of your updates, who has recently viewed and clicked into one of your recent updates. Not a huge amount you can do with it, other than just that peace of mind and that sort of, excitement that someone's seen something, it's sticky, people are engaging with it. Hopefully gives a few insights there, which is quite nice. So yeah, kind of all that sort of thing really. And then finally, on the public page or the shareable page for an update, is now got a bit of a navigational thing on the left, so that if there are previous or future updates, if they're depending on where they are in that stack, they can sort of delve into previous updates.
Sorry, is that in the room?
To go into the main room.
So is that like in the room preview?
Yeah. So either the preview or if you send the update to yourself. So if you go into the into the room preview, you should now see this recent updates on the left-hand side in the sidebar. And then equally, if you send yourself
have you
a
pushed
test
that
update email and go into it that way, then you'll see the recent updates.
Yes.
In there as well.
So just to let you know, I got the test email and I clicked on it, and then it showed me the update, but it didn't show me the rest of the room. Does that make sense?
Show me the link, or send me a link for the update that you're looking at.
I can do a screenshot if you want.
Yeah, no, that's fine. I can see it.
Okay.
That's probably. Because there are no published updates. Have you published the update?
No.
Because you sent yourself a test, but have you actually published it?
No. So
publish it first, and that will.
I'll publish it first.
Okay. So you need at least one update to be published.
Right. Are active or just email members, or?
Yeah, active is fine. Yeah, change the status to active.
And
there you go. So
okay.
refresh that.
Target page. Recent updates. Awesome. Okay, test. And then now it goes through.
The only one you've got, and then back to room, which takes you to the. Oh, where's that on my feed?
Yeah, I see it. Recent updates. Test. Sweet. Big news. Right. Okay. Cool. Okay.
So yeah.
How you feeling?
I still haven't been able to. I haven't actioned it yet. You still can't, ironically, add anyone to a room.
That's okay.
So, I'm going to do that tonight, if not first thing tomorrow morning. It's actually going to be straightforward because we've already got the facility for you to add people at the company level, not team, but just actual
people.
This is just really a matter of linking people to rooms, really. So it's an example of one area where I think there is lots that you probably want to do with it in the future. You know, drag and drop, maybe create a more of a workflow out of it. But I'll probably go for the simpler approach initially. So we'll see how that goes.
Cool. Okay. Great. Do you want us to kind of go through a little bit of the feedback in terms of what to factor that into anything that you're able to do, or like what is helpful?
Yeah, I think it would make sense now to, you know, whether it's something we do on the call or whether you send me an email. I don't know, whatever's easiest.
So I've written it down and I'll send it to you anyway. But we can just go through it with you now if you want.
Yeah, makes sense.
Okay, cool. So a lot of this stuff is copy related, you know, like, so a lot of it is, I don't know what that means, right? But just there are a couple of things that stood out to some of the folks last night that were just a bit confusing. So they were mostly in the update section. When you're creating an update and you go through that process, they felt like there could have been another step that would make it so that it was very clear that something isn't being sent yet. So they didn't know, like they didn't understand what the status change meant. And if they said email members, like worried that if you press email members, like who's getting that? What's the confirmation like? So like that, I feel like if we could provide some sort of reassurance. I was thinking that actually what should happen is that instead of email members being there, it should actually take you to the preview, and then from that screen it says this email is going to send out to XYZ people, and then are you okay to do this? Yes, go. You know what I mean?
That could be a nice way of doing it, actually.
So
or at the very least some sort of modal sort of says,
Yeah.
okay, we're about to send this to so
Yeah.
and so, X amount of people.
X amount of people. And
They were mentioning MailChimp, weren't they? And they were saying because of, especially investors, they were
Yeah.
terrified to send something without
exactly.
actually knowing it was going.
Yeah, you want to make sure that, and also for the preview to actually make it look like an email. So I don't know, have a I don't know, a graphic of an email client, so it looks kind of like what it is. Some of the and again, I think this is content, but the ad content, when you have like tooltips and they have like ad content, so for a while they were trying to click on that, like they were trying to click on that button, and it was quite funny to watch them. Kept forgetting to actually go and click ad content. I think that right now that's okay. Like there's not a real huge thing you can do. There was one idea that they had was the content button, because it's a set number of things, especially on the room side, it might be a little easier to understand if those buttons were on the left-hand side, so like they were actually part of the menu. I don't actually think that's a huge deal right now, just because it's that could be something for later. But they were like, well, if I see that there's a text there, that might cut down the number of clicks needed to add something. If you were just like Typeform, you see on the left-hand side, you see the blocks, right? Then they also were a bit confused on how to start when they were creating a room, and suggested that maybe when you create a new room, that actually there were some blocks already there. Does that make sense? That you then edit, so we could come up with some Acme Corp stuff,
nice, easy one.
And then at least they can understand what, like, they didn't know what a dot the dot visualizer was,
fun with that.
but they had fun with it. But seeing it out there, then okay, that that makes a lot more sense. And then a weird thing is if you go to settings and if you click manage team, you then get stuck into a different nested settings page, which I think you're expecting it to be actually nested, but the left hand side changes, and then it's hard to realize how to get back. And then I have a couple of other notes, but most of it is also if there were certain things that we had talked about at the beginning of the week that we've rethought of in terms of, if possible, these would be then the ideal things to include. One of them is being able to pull out the first name of the person and put that in an email, and also put that in the briefing room, in the room itself.
I had intention to do that.
Yeah, and then also knowing right now the branding. If you put in custom branding, nothing really happens. So just what should happen and what could happen there. Company's logo, where does that actually go? What does the color scheme look like? The
logos do come kick through. They go in the top left and also an email. But you're right, the colors I didn't do. I actually wasn't planning on doing color schemes until I saw your wireframes, and I thought, So I put them in anyway as fields. But it's kind of deciding what to do there. It's not too overly complicated, really. But
is there something else that could take precedence? Maybe. So but it's just because they were there and there was an option there, it just didn't seem to do anything. So just to make sure, couple of either not requests but things that came out of what they thought would be cool to have there, and then also just talking later. So this would be nice to haves if we could. Would be the ability to add a file, which you could probably do now if you had a Dropbox file and then you made a link with the markdown, but being able to add a file and have a little symbol for a file so that people can download a file, like a PDF. The ability to have a simple graph in some way that has a CSV that's tied to a CSV, that maybe you download a CSV template, you fill it in, and you drag it back up, and then it shows that on a graph.
That'd be nice.
So and I kind of feel if you can do that, if you could do a CSV file, that means that then eventually you could create an integration that spits out I don't know. It strikes me that's the first step, right?
That's a great example.
And then a multiple image block. So if you wanted to have the founding team or the leadership team, and you wanted to have their picture, their name, their picture, their name. So kind of like the dots, but instead of the dot number, it would be an image. And then, the ability to select a list of people to add to a room or add a new person directly from the room builder. So when the room creator. So when you're creating a room, you see a list of people, but maybe there's also a button to add a person, and that person, it adds a person and adds them to that room. So, depending on the way that you were...
Sort of reducing the clicks there.
Reducing,
Right.
So, and then, a couple of questions. So you have like things like title of a section of content in the updates, but that title isn't reflective in the actual email. And maybe that's on purpose, which is fine. In which case, I think.
Well, it was in purpose in the fact that I didn't get around to it yet, but it's
not
not
okay.
intended.
Yeah. All right, just really just to make sure that you have that, and then also just there's at least in the wireframes or how we were imagining it, that the update would be split into two parts. One part would be actually sent in the email, and the other would be after that button to send after the break,
Yes.
And so whether or not that is haven't gotten around to it, don't want to do it because actually it will look clunky, or
no, just haven't got around to it.
Yeah, exactly.
I'd forgotten and I hadn't got around to it, so this is a good reminder.
Yep. But
there's no technical reason why that can't be done, and I think I'd even got the fields already there being entered. I think it was down the summary field. Anyway.
Okay.
It was planned, just forgotten.
Yeah, that's right. And then a question about if people can be allocated to multiple rooms.
Yes.
Yeah, which is great.
Yeah.
Because that makes sense.
And also, just on that, in terms of the way it's structured in the database, you've got member, which is at the company level, and so which is basically what we've got already in the people section. So that's just adding people to the company. Then you've got a room member, which is when you link a person to a room, and then you've got an update recipient, and that's someone who has been sent an update.
Right.
Now, someone will only be sent an update if they are a room member, but the reason we've done it that way is that we want to be able to track their activity for that specific update, and equally, if someone later on gets removed as a member from an update, we don't want to have to remove that history, that log, of the fact that at some point in the past they were sent an update. So, so basically it sort of future-proofs you in many ways. It sort of sets you up for people to sort of muck about with people and add them and take them away and not delete a lot of data related to it.
That's also really helpful for in the future if you want to remove access to a certain person. You don't want them to see anything anymore. You take them off a list, but you also want to make sure that they're part of your analytics.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, cool. And then I don't know. I know you haven't linked up the ability to add people to multiple rooms, but not sure about the customized links and to make sure that we can test that. But aside from
what's customized links?
Like the personalized link. So if you click it, it'll go through to your room, your personal link. Versus my personal link. I know.
Include the personal.
Exactly.
They're not personalised in the sense that we're not yet showing, hey, Rob, in the actual room itself, but that's something we can add very quickly.
Exactly. Yeah.
So the links themselves are entirely personal.
They're all unique. Yeah.
And
exactly.
Yes, in that sense.
So that's pretty much it. Everything else was mostly copy. Like they didn't understand what updates were. And it might be helpful for us to say email updates instead of updates, just so that they understand that, right? So we have to go through and just maybe come up with a whole bunch of like copy tweaks or copy changes. But I'll send this through to you in a text. But other than that, they were pretty chuffed in terms of all the stuff.
They were
like,
it's been 3 days. What?
Yeah. So I think it looks amazing.
Yeah, and I think that's pretty decent. I think we should be pretty happy with that type of feedback.
Yeah.
First and foremost, I don't think we have any major bugs, which is fantastic. It feels like a stable platform already. Yes, there's some key bits missing, but I think what's there, certainly from my experience, seems to work well, which is a good sign. I think what I'd be interested to know is what your priorities are, what you would like, because obviously everything you just mentioned there is not possible to do in one day. So, do you have a sense as to at this stage, which are the high priority ones for you? If you could wave a magic wand.
Well, wave a magic wand, I guess all of them, right? But
Don't wave a magic wand. Wave a realistic wand.
so aside from the confusion around copy, I guess, so aside from copy changes, which I assume aren't very complicated, I think it's the update screen, making sure that flow is smooth, like the preview, making sure that works, and that gives them more confidence that they're not going to send something out.
So the whole warning you're about to send an email.
Yeah, and then personally for me, and I don't know about you, but kind of whichever one of those nice to haves in the room, whichever those ones that can be done or to be done. So like,
I got a challenge.
Does that make sense? No?
I've got a challenge.
That's my preference.
My challenge is, if we're talking about feature creep earlier in the week, do we want to build another feature, or do we want to showcase what you can do with this one? So would it be better to prioritize the whole, I know it's not a wizard, but showing previous content that you can then overwrite so that you know how to use what we currently have?
Yeah. True. It depends on the complexity, I guess. But like, if you were to say, out of those things, like, could you add a graph? I think that's a both it shows.
I mean, very cool.
Yeah, exactly. So like, well, I don't know. It depends on the complexity. How complex is it to have it so that there is content already in there that people can then edit? Is that quite trivial, or is that will that?
The content already in there is pretty trivial. 45 minutes, not much. But first things first, I do have to do the adding people to a room.
Yeah.
Of course, yeah.
And that's going to be a couple of hours, because that obviously the system can't function without
Yeah,
that.
of course.
So that would need to be done first. Then I think it makes sense just to get the default content in there. Let me write a quick note on top of my head. So add people to room, default room content, and I suppose update content as well. Well, yeah, I suppose you want the default, but in both cases, don't you?
Yep, I can provide you some.
Yeah. We also need to update the homepage.
Yep, copy.
That can't. But what we need to just think of is tomorrow is essentially, we need to think of it as the cut-off point. So if nothing else gets done after tomorrow, do you have something that can be sold that people can engage with and purchase and all that sort of stuff? So homepage copy is obviously fundamental. Do you have a sense as to what that's going to be fleshed out?
Yeah,
or how that's going to be fleshed out?
Yeah, we're going to be doing that and taking cues. Yeah.
I mean, I would just for now. I mean, I wouldn't. The amount of times I've reworked home pages in the past over time.
Yeah.
I've lost count, and it will just be something that will continually evolve. So for now, I would just, if you can, I would just fill in the gaps that I've left there. I mean, I'll add some more if you want to, of course, but I don't think we need
it's
to go
going to be minimal.
Yeah.
But whatever you feel is right. So yeah, I think add people to a room, default room, and update content, homepage copy. Is there anything else that I heard there that seems to be critical in terms of
so
core function?
the updates, half updates before, like in the email, and half the update is after the email?
Yeah. So summary, update, email to show summary with view more, style link, something like that. I think exactly.
Just two content sections, like for content section and then a bar. I mean, like that's kind of what we were thinking.
Content section and a bar. What do you mean? Like a horizontal rule, you mean?
Yeah. Like if you.
Well, we've already got that, but the difference is that we're showing the whole content. So it'll be. I think the way you had any wireframes is you had kind of like the summary content, like the first couple of lines, and then the full content. And so in the email, we'll show the summary with a ... read more.
Oh no! Sorry. Yeah. So that's actually not what I meant. So what I meant was literally, if we're making a new update and we're going to add content, we can add the first content, and the first bit of content is above is in the email. So we write some content, and then we have made the decision to say we are hiding everything else. So any bit of content that we're making in another block is going to be after the break. Does that make sense? So it's not going to just be ... It's not going to.
So, is the simple way to do this then, to give a bit more flexibility, to have, for the purposes of an update content block versus a room content block, to have a checkbox in there to say show in email or
Yes.
include in email.
Sure.
So you could
Perfect.
have the first one, or you could choose to have the first three
Perfect.
visible,
Yeah.
but then the rest of them you would hide, and then you would have to click from the email to view the full update.
Exactly. Exactly.
Would that work?
That would be perfect.
There you go.
Okay. Okay. And then I think I need to probably deal with the titles. Include titles from content blocks in the update emails. Because if you add a title, currently that's not showing, so that means
Sure.
that as a subheading almost in the email, that needs to be included. I think what I will do for now, just because it is literally a 2-second job, just to make sure we at least do this, is when you click the email members button, I will have a little message that says, clicking yes will send this
Sure.
to
There you go.
X number
Okay.
of members. Just so we've got that in there, and if we have time, we can do something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
really
fair.
good.
That's fair.
Yeah,
That's
so
always
that-
something that can be done later.
Yeah.
And again, time. If there's time, it's the first name, like the being able to pull in first names on emails and also in the room.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So if I had to then make an argument, it would be a CSV upload that plots data on a graph.
I'm happy with that after those things.
If that's possible, yeah.
So nice to have CSV graph. Okay, leave that with me. Let me see if that's going to be possible. Given the time constraints, of course.
Yep.
But yeah, I love the idea of that. And in theory, that's not too complicated because, as you say, you're sort of having you're providing a template. It's going to be fairly basic structure. I think we'll just do a single series for now, not a graph with multiple series for now. And yeah, there's no reason why that couldn't be done fairly easily. Just have to store it as well, but that's fine. Okay, well leave that with me, and I'll let you know. But if you think, so I will just summarise this in our Slack channel now. If you think of anything else between now and tomorrow morning that should take priority over any of these items, please let me know.
Sure.
Because I'm going to be basing my planning based on what is in this list.
I will. I'll also send you. Yeah, I'll just send you the kind of summary of the smaller points as well, just so that you can remember them.
Okay, cool. So just pop that into Slack.
Cool.
Also, just the point about the copy of updates. I think that's fine. I wouldn't worry about that. There's loads of categories of things you can do within here. You've got updates, you've got rooms, and you've got people. I mean, I think it is what it is. And yes, it needs
Explaining.
onboarding, maybe a tooltip, when people first arrive there. Maybe an email series that goes out that lets people know what's going on. But yeah, I wouldn't worry too much about that one.
Okay.
But
Cool.
Personally.
Yeah, that's all right. That's fair. And maybe, and again, how simple is it? You know how some areas that you have little information things.
Sorry, do you mean the eyes in an eyeball, or do you mean
No,
eyes in
the letter I.
Yeah.
Are those relatively simple to roll out to new areas, or are they kind of have been predefined?
No, that's fine. That's easy. Yeah.
So I think like we can also, if there's an area that is a bit complicated, or something that we've noted, instead of creating.
Well, what do you want to attach it to or associate it with?
Yeah, I'm not saying like updates or anything, but like
Sorry?
I'm not saying like updates. More like in the email all members, for example, there could be an I that says like, don't worry, they won't be able to see this bit of text, or it's that kind of stuff. Like the description of the internal note for a person. They were like, can this person see that stuff, or can they not, even though it's called an internal note? So we might add a little I there and say that says, this is private just to use, and this is what you might put there. I might put their birthday or whatever.
Definitely. Let me know what they are,
we'll have
9 times out of 10 it'll be just a straight case of me putting it in there. There's some cases like putting it on the email members that doesn't make sense to put it there because you wouldn't have an eye inside a button from a
that's true.
UX standpoint. You wouldn't do that.
That's true.
Because you wouldn't have a hover inside a button. But that can go in the confirmation pop-up that this won't be sent. For example.
Yeah.
Yep. Well, it looks awesome.
Cool. How are you feeling about it?
I'm feeling great. I'm really looking forward to, just then trying to get people to use it and see what they do with it, because I think that'll tell us then. Even last night. So last night, one of the people taking part was already thinking like, okay, if I was doing this for they are not a founder, but if I was doing this for this report that I'm filling out, this is probably what I would do. And even though she's probably just trying to engage with it a bit, it made me feel really good just hearing someone being able to articulate something else, a new thing that still uses the same tool. Does that make sense?
Yeah, totally.
Yeah. So how are you feeling about it as a challenge? How has this been so far?
Yeah, it's been good. It's actually get done if the right focus is applied. I think the important part of this was always to make sure that there was something sellable at the end. So it needed to join the main dots in terms of being able to do the key things within the platform.
Yeah.
Beyond that is the aesthetics, and I think there's been a massive leap that's been made as a result of me porting this over from something that I've built before from a UX standpoint.
Yeah.
But equally, I do think it would benefit massively now that the core mechanics and the core nuts and bolts are in there.
Yeah.
It would benefit massively, I think, from a fresh design sort of perspective.
Sure.
I don't think it's critical right now. There's still things you're working out, and I think this is a good sort of lesson for people watching who are looking at sort of building, rolling something out in MVP sort of style. I think the amount of times you will iterate with, buttons here and confirmation and workflows, all that sort of stuff, refined design work afterwards. And I think I would very much recommend that in this case as well. I feel it needs a refresh design.
Okay.
It feels a bit dated to me. I don't like it.
Okay.
But that's not something that can ever be solved in a week.
Yes.
There are too many things that are more important than that.
Yeah.
But I think that could benefit.
Okay. Cool. Well, how are you feeling?
I'm feeling really good that it's looking in such good shape. I think we've had a big push today to ask a whole load of our community members to run it through its own beta test tomorrow at 4, and I think it's going to be a really good shape for that. I think it's going to be pretty enlightening just to test how that goes.
Yeah.
Really, really excited for that.
Cool. Well, I think that's us. We haven't record that, or should we just? I mean, I can go back and try and use this, but it's not as.
No, we should do a nice succinct one.
Can we? Do you have a few more minutes?
I've got to, I've got like 15 minutes, but
okay, cool.
I'm going to do some family things. My wife's popping out. I've got to put baby to bed.
As you do. Okay.
I know.
So it's been the end of day 4 and Thursday, and in terms of stuff that was achieved, this was Data Day, or Data's Day, if we're talking about Star Trek.
Well, I don't like that phrase anymore now that you said it refers to Star Trek. I think we should choose a different name.
Anyway, just to recap in terms of what was achieved, briefly, Ben, what were you looking to achieve today, and what was yeah.
Right. So, in a very brief, succinct way, we now have data being tracked and now displayed, which is kind of the key final sort of step in this whole game that we're playing this week. We're tracking now opens and views for reports and rooms themselves, as well as sending out all the personalized links and the email mechanics that are required to do that. Mm-hmm. And we're now reporting on that engagement and activity within the dashboard, so that as the business owner, you can actually see, oh, Rob opened my update from today, or Bob has read it or opened it but not viewed it, he hasn't clicked the link yet and hasn't viewed it in full, which is kind of interesting, kind of cool. It sort of completes the circle there a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely, and it does look obviously from a tool perspective, and I guess getting out from that concern that you had about it being a glorified database, data is, and tracking is the thing that primarily, from the get-go, differentiates it and is a real, like, that's the reason why you buy something. It's not just to make a pretty dashboard for your investors. It's to understand what that means and to get some value out of it. So I think this is perhaps some of the more crucial just means that, like, it's increased in value in the last 24 hours by a huge amount, at least from my perspective. Simply, and I know you say simply by seeing how many people viewed it, how many people clicked it, how much time someone spent in a room, that actually really does matter. I mean, there are entire businesses that are built just on email trackers, on email tracking, and so it's a big deal. And I've been really excited every time you post a screenshot of an update, going and trying to play around with it. How are you feeling about the about how together? And I know you get a little, you feel frustrated until it's all tied together. So how are you feeling about that?
Yeah, it's interesting you say that. I mean, that sort of perfectionist mindset that I have is now rearing its head, I think, for the first time in the week.
Yeah.
Where I think it's kind of evident to me that everything is in place now. The majority of things are in place. As a platform, as an experience, it's pretty joined up. It's pretty stable considering all the things it does. That there aren't any major bugs. I mean, everything works. Email delivery, it now allows my mind to sort of go, okay, everything works. Do I like the way it looks now? And then that sort of mindset is kicking in. So I do think there is some finesse that can be made, and I would love to see it done. Just to sort of really, so I suppose, if you think about it, you were talking before about what are the unique things about this, and in relation to the data and the visualizations and the insights that provides. You could think of this as having two key points of difference, or two key focuses. One is the content builder. Can you create? Does it make it easier and more meaningful to create this content that you then share? And then does it give you data that helps you share it in a more meaningful way? And I think both of those things are very visual in nature. And so I think moving forwards, you would do your product and those two core pillars a disservice if you don't kind of try. At the moment, they're kind of just basic building blocks. You can add a bit of content, and they just stack nicely, and it's all neat and tidy. But I think the next step is, can you really wow people with, this is an environment I want to really be in. And that's the next challenge, I think.
And as a way to maybe try and address some of those perfectionist tendencies in your mind, I mean, maybe just thinking about what you think other people should change, or what the other folks should change, so that you could become the biggest critic in the world of what you'd want to see. I mean, maybe that would satisfy it. Like, just coming up with a list of ideas that we should go off and explore and think about when it comes time, just because you've been involved in building it from the ground up.
Yeah, I think it's nothing more than, you can be quite practical in these sorts of approaches as well. You just need a bit more time, particularly because it's creative.
Sure.
I think it's kind of something that would be fairly easily solved by getting a designer to look at this and say, right, visualizations, redesign that, make the data that we have and that we now know we can expose and we have available, make it look beautiful, make it look and feel, like a different sort of experience. And in doing that, not only do you get a better dashboard, but it would, I think, bring in a new design pattern and guidelines that you would then carry through to the rest of the site. And but that's kind of the point. You can't do that type of exercise
until you have
you've got the thing working.
Exactly.
So it's kind of just, it's part of the course, and that's why my mind is racing over.
Of course.
Things, because that is the natural next step.
Sure. Absolutely, makes sense. So, Lizzie, how was your day? What did you do? How did you feel?
So I feel like today we've had the chance to get through a chunk of work as well. So I was really happy to reach out and speak to almost all of our community members in person and update them on what we managed to complete yesterday and what stage the product was at, and invite them to test it tomorrow. So that was a nice kind of reorientation of, yeah, how's your journey been in terms of following us as we build a product, but now the focus being on, well, the product that we have built is Briefing Room. This is what it currently looks like, and we really need your help to kind of take it to the next step and test it. So it's been fab to have people saying, yep, absolutely, I'm free tomorrow and I'll dive in and have a look at that. I'm feeling much more confident now that we've had a few iterations of copy, and I know that's just going to take time. We were talking earlier that it can take years to be able to meet someone in a coffee shop and they say, what do? You need to be able to explore the time, you need to be able to describe and get the concept across. So I understand why we find that difficult in only 1 week, but it still frustrates me that, we just don't have it. You don't have something that we've been playing a game all week, asking each other, so what's Briefing Room? And just kind of try and roll with it and see if one day maybe it comes out and we think, yeah, that's the exact phrase that we want to use. But I feel better that we've got a good few iterations under our belt, knowing that there will be many more in the future. But I agree with Ben, I kind of had the realization today that the absolute power behind this, not to go back to data day again, but it is, Ben, it's all about data day. That's where the power, that's where I see the power of this product, and the differentiator is for sure the analytics and the ability to customer interview in the middle of the day. And the phrase used, I loved, the phrase used was, I want to know that I'm getting return of investment of my time in spending the time making that investor update. And I thought that was absolutely right. You want to know that what you're sharing is being engaged with, that it's hitting the spot, and that's why I think the power isn't in how we update the person, it's in the analytics that are given back to the founder. So it's coming together for me conceptually, which then means I feel more able to describe what it is and describe the impact that it has. So yeah, it's been a good day.
Good.
How are you doing, Galb?
I'm feeling good. I'm tired, but managed to make a bit more headway on the kind of accelerator copy and landing pages, and so I'm looking forward to that. Now my resistance that I need to get over is the fact that if we're pointing people to it, get in touch with them and have them share something that's specifically saying it's not ready. So if you're saying that, if you're saying, hey, before it's ready, lock in your discount, versus no, you're going to lock in your discount because you are an accelerated company and that's the way that we're going to go in and you can use it today. Those are two different, they're just two different ways of trying to pitch it. I don't know if that's just manufactured in my head though, or not. So I'm just gonna keep writing out to different folks and trying to get some engagement on there. I think tomorrow, I'm a little nervous about tomorrow. Tomorrow's call at 4. That's when we're gonna just have a whole bunch of different founders and different people on a big Zoom call and ask them to go through and use it and tell us about it. And I guess I'm just worried that that founders will be on there and they'll say, this doesn't really, like, it doesn't fix my problem, or I don't really have this problem, and we just hear that over and over and over again. We have heard from some founders that are like, yeah, this is actually really cool. I'm really going to be looking forward to using this. And some of our payments were evidence of that. But again, it's more of just like if I hear like 20 times, looks cool, but I use this. And it's fine, then I'm just going to feel kind of a little disheartened. But yeah, I've been super pleased with how it looks. I know that Ben, you don't much care for the design, or you think that it should be refreshed, but I think you said things have come a long way, but things have also come a long way in that what you think looks outdated is also very clear and very easy to read and very easy to understand. It's not covered by lots of fluff that you can't decipher. A big bugbear for me, the text is big. It looks like something that someone can use regardless of their technical ability, even if things might be a little bit awkwardly placed in your eyes. It's still there's a paradigm. It's a consistent paradigm, and it works. And so I think I'm not as bugged by that as you are. And I also think that, as you say, it's quite right. We got to make it like this, and then learn about where people are getting confused.
I also take it with
exactly.
a pinch of salt. This is my 4th product.
I know.
With this design.
I know. Exactly.
That's almost largely what's driving my full process.
Yeah, which is fine.
It's something I'm now bored with. In a very real basic sense. So
exactly.
literally take it with a pinch of salt.
Yeah.
It's just the work of having seen it too many times, really.
I'm just really excited for it to be done in a sense of I am excited not to be live streaming anymore. I'm also like, as you were saying, Lizzie, like I felt all week like a little clouded with being able to try and come up with good copy and like just being able to articulate things. And I think part of that was just because there's so much other stuff that we have to do because of the live streaming. And so I felt a little bit like let down by myself in that, because how do you describe it? Sometimes I can usually go away and I can come up with some really good engaging copy, and I just haven't been able to kind of feel that. So I think next week is going to be a lot better for me in terms of being able to try and come up with interesting ways of describing it. But all in all, I'm really excited. I'm very happy, and I think that a strong finish tomorrow will mean that we're going to be able to have a lot of fun over the weekend, starting to try and engage people. So I'm definitely filled with like a lot of excitement for it to be over, so that we can get started, if that makes sense.
I think
I'm just so excited that you guys now have, or as of next week, you will have a real product.
I know.
You can now go out and sell. It just fills me with so much joy to know that. It's exciting to see what you guys will do there.
Yeah. Well, thank you very much for it.
Oh, I was just thinking that a reflection of something that we've all mentioned today is not being able to accurately describe the passage of time. So we feel like the beginning of the week was ages ago. We're not really sure what day it is, what time it is. You kind of feel a little bit jet lagged. And it's a conversation that Galb and I were having earlier, and I wanted to loop Ben in. I think it is important to note that this is a sprint. It is not sustainable. You're talking about the weekend. We will also be having a break. And I think that is important.
The feeling
and
of
that's
the weekend.
and that's absolutely, of course, you're gonna feel different like after tomorrow, after Friday is done. But this has taken and is taking a lot, and I think it's taken energy, it's taken focus. You're talking about cloudy mind, like you can't function all day every day at the level that we have this week. So I guess it's just to make sure that we're not being proponents of the hustler attitude, or saying that this is something that you can do week upon week or month upon month, because you absolutely can't. You can probably see over the course of this week the toll that it's taking on us, just in our inability to finish sentences, or actually someone walked in, I forgot to say hello to them and just started speaking, just really simple things. So I think that it's just important to mention the reality of that, and because we know we trust each other, I think that's okay within our relationships with each other, but it's just a good thing to be aware of.
100%, yeah.
Great. Well, have a good night, Ben. It's nearing wine o'clock for you, I imagine, and looking forward to checking in the morning.
Yeah, look forward to it.
This has been fun.
Cool.
All right.
Thanks, Ben.
Thanks.
Take care. Have a good night.
Good night.
Take care.
See ya.
Bye.